Hi, everybody. We're back with today's topic is going to be depression. We did anxiety just a little bit ago. So we figured it would be good to cover this also. I noticed in a lot of like my different crunchy mom groups and things that these two subjects come up so much. And that's why we're kind of tackling them first. Because a lot of people are struggling and they don't feel like there's other options for them. So they're going to the medications, and we just want people to know that there's natural ways to do this so that they don't go down the wrong road and get, lost down there like I have in the past. So for depression, as far as the homeopathic remedies that help that, I'm going to go over some today, but you also can find so much out online. There's a really good website called Dr. Homeo, and you could just research either depression, Dr. Homeo, anxiety, Dr. Homeo, or also, and now this was the thing that I forgot about in the last show that I couldn't think of what I was saying. So here it is. If you search whatever your ailment is and Joette, so say for this, it would be depression and Joette, her blog post is going to come up. She's written blog posts for 13 years. She has so much free information online. It's Joette Calabrese's website, and she's my mentor in my homeopathy academy. And she does a lot of free education. And in those blog posts, she does actually give out protocols for certain things, where I'm just going to tell you about the remedies and what they do because I'm not really able to do that. But she's done it in her blog. So if you want to learn more there, whatever the ailment is, and then Joette, because her name is not, all that common, she's just always the first thing that pops up. So that's very helpful as far as free guidance and things like that.
We'll put a link below.
Okay, yeah, good. That's awesome. So the first one I'm going to go over is Ignatia, and it's good for people that are dealing with grief or loss, acute situations, sorrow, a breakup, a death. They're sad all the time. They have weeping spells. They avoid, avoid social engagements, irritable. It even says bipolar, suppressed grief. It could be going on for a long time, and this can still be helpful. People that sigh a lot, I've been through parts of my life where I've done that, where it's like, that kind of thing. You're just overwhelmed, basically, for like a pit in your stomach. Like, when you are like, you're doing fine, and all of a sudden you think of something and you get that like literal, physical feeling. That has been huge for me. They're oversensitive. They could be nervous. Just dealing with stress from hearing bad news. It's also for shame or embarrassment, which I didn't just realize until I was researching some more before this. And an interesting thing that I thought that Joette taught us in the class was because when she went over to India to learn from the Banerjees, and this is how she put all her protocols together, they gave this out to 30% of their patients, and they saw 1,200 patients a day. But it also is good for poverty. Like, they're dealing with a lot of poverty over there. They have not, it's not like here. We're very fortunate where we live. But for people that are dealing with like money worries and issues like that, so I went to this after the aconite, and I'm not depressed. It's more for my worry, like, because I'm just a chronic worrier. I always have been, we've had a lot of things happen, like, I forget what the term is, like catastrophic thinking. Like, with Kevin's accident, he sawed off all his fingers. Like
I'm glad we could
just,
laugh.
yeah. Oh, we can, yeah. But it wasn't funny then. But just like someone that like a lot of things happen to, like, plus I was like watching the news all the time. So,
Yeah,
you're seeing all those accidents. Like I was
yeah,
all up in there. So to help with my worriness, I take Ignatia and I only started it, I would say 2 months ago. It has made such a difference in my life. I don't miss a dose. Like, not doing it. Because what it helped me with was my driving. And I didn't mention it in the last one when we were talking about the aconite, because that did get me to where I am now. But because my anxiety kind of switched to worry when I'm driving, that I'm worried, that I'm going to get the dizzy spell, it has stopped that. And I am forever grateful. And also, when you do think of things and you get like that chest pain or that stomach pain, it took that away totally. And I don't ever want that again. So for now, we're sticking with the Ignatia. So that's one of my favorites. And now there's Nat Myrrh, and
never.
that's more for chronic depression. It's for people that are very sensitive, they dwell on the past, they don't like to be consoled, and they're offended easily. Um, it's also a good one for like allergies, nasal allergies, and things like that. So sometimes it can treat two problems instead of just one. Um, and then there's Aurum Metallicum, and that is for deep, deep depression. That's for suicidal thoughts, dark thoughts, hopelessness, worthlessness. The future seems dark, negative thoughts, life's a burden. They long for death. Like if they talk about it, even just in passing, there's like a root to that if they're mentioning it. And it's actually made from gold. So you really have to be careful because it's so powerful, how you take it and the frequency, because it's not like something that, some of these remedies I take twice a day. This one you would take once like every 3 days because it just isn't needed to be so often. But even one dose can turn certain people totally around. Um, and I've seen it, and it could be life changing for a lot of people. Like I bet you this would help so many vets, like
Yeah.
veterans,
Oh,
for
yeah.
all the things that they've seen, and you know it could really change
Yeah.
a lot of lives. So you can, if you know someone that is suicidal or whatever, you just Google search it, and Joette might even have something about this, and just learn more about it before you use it or consult a homeopath. And then there's Cali which I use Cali for like mental clarity, like if I'm doing a lot of schoolwork and I need to like, keep going. But it also says here um, that it's for people that are overstressed. They have a lot to worry about. They're constantly sad or gloomy, mentally or physically exhausted. It could be for anxiety attacks, weeping spells, and sleeplessness. Um, and all of these have 100 different uses. So I'm just mentioning the ones that are related to depression, um, but they treat a multitude of things. But that's as far as I got with the depression. They're the main ones that you would go to. But you can also, do your own Google search and learn more. Um, and then also look up depression in Joette, and she does have, I believe, a protocol there that you could follow as far as frequency and potency and all of that.
That's awesome. I like that one.
They're life changing, honestly.
Yeah,
And
and I liked
oh,
how it the difference between like our last podcast was anxiety and then the worry. They're
yeah,
different. And I have that
a little
question
bit.
when people come to me in my history. It's like, do you have experience, chronic anxiety or do you have worry? And they're like, how are those different? I'm like, they are, you know,
Yeah,
although they
yeah.
can go together too, the worrying can cause the anxiety, but they are different types of manifestations. So I like how that it's homeopathy.
Yeah, I feel like Ignatius
Wait, you just lost your microphone. I don't know why. No, I don't know. It just went out. There we go.
Um,
Now I hear you.
we're good.
Yeah.
I feel like Ignatia could go either way as far as anxiety.
Now it went off. You must be hitting something.
Is I always wanted one like this.
Just hold it like that. That's what they do on Instagram. Now it's off again. I
The
can't
light's solid. We're good. You can hear
I
me?
can hear you. Yeah, but
Okay.
I don't know what it's doing.
I'm not touching anything right now. I'm just gonna say. But yeah, Ignatius.
No, it's off. I wonder if it's dying.
How about now? We're good.
Yeah.
I'll have to charge that. Ignatius, let me say it for the 10th time.
If anybody doesn't know, we're talking about Ignatia.
This one, I never would have pictured it for myself because I don't ever feel like I've been a depressed person, just anxious. So I didn't pick up on Ignatia for myself. I thought it was more for people that have had grief and loss and like all of that. But as far as what it's done for me with the worrying,
Yeah.
it's been huge. And it's for caregivers too.
Oh,
People
that's
are giving to everybody but themselves, which, I just mentioned to my friend the other day. I keep telling her about Ignatia because of the way that it's helped me. And I hate to see people like suffer
mhm.
when it could just be so easily remedied. So in my class, they just mentioned specifically for caregivers. And I was like, I'm just going to tell her again. So I sent her a little text and I was like, just want to let you know that Anisha I've been telling you about, is for caregiving. And you're caring for a grandmother and a child that, nonverbal. And that's a lot. That's a load,
Yes.
and if something, it doesn't numb you. Like, because I have someone else that lost their husband and she's afraid to take anything. And I was like, I'm telling you, like, just try it. It's going to bring you so much relief. And she's nervous. Like, she's afraid to take anything because he died from medical error and things like that. So
Right.
I happened to run into her at the health food store and her daughter is like all into everything. But the mother is afraid to take anything. And I'm like, it's not going to make you feel loopy. It's not going to make you feel different. These remedies don't work like that. It's not something that you have to be afraid to take. And then, like, you're going to have a side effect.
Right.
It's going to be better. Like, you're just going to feel better.
That's because that we've been schooled that medicine is treating that symptom. But what it does is, we talked about this, it turns off a pathway, it turns off an enzyme. And so the
Yeah.
body stops making a certain thing, or that pathway is shut off. And you get these side effects, right? Which we call them in chiropractic school effects. The side effects aren't on the side. Like, the effects are the effects. They might work for the one thing that it's made for, but it does other things too. So I think
That's
that's
where
why
I
she's
feel like
getting
the
nervous, because she's thinking of homeopathy like that. Like, oh, what's it going
yes.
to do? What side effect am I going to get? What's it going to do to me? When that's not how homeopathy works. It's not shutting
Um,
off a pathway.
I'm begging her. I'm like, okay,
No.
just take one pellet. Like, even though the dose is 5, just take one. Like, I'm even gonna offer to go over there and like sit with her while she like
Oh, you're so
whatever I
good.
could do to like get her to try it because I just don't want her to feel like this. She just has had a really hard time, and I hate to see people suffer. It's just
Everyone, this is why I love Christine, and
I
I've
can
I've
start.
Maha mommed with her, because she really, really, this is all about her wanting to help people, because she doesn't want anyone to suffer like she did.
No, no. And I can't even imagine, she lost her husband,
Yeah.
after he fought cancer and beat it, then there was a medical error and he, you know, passed away. Like, I can't even imagine having to go through that. So I'm gonna have to, I texted her daughter the other day. I'm like, so did she take it yet? She's like, not yet. And I was like, okay,
Timing,
well,
she
the
will.
next step is gonna be, I'm gonna have to go over there and just like,
Hold her hand through it.
yeah, yeah, there's
Scared.
nothing to be afraid of. There really isn't. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work because it's not the right remedy for you. And that's really the worst thing that can happen. So,
All right, I'm going to go into the functional medicine
yeah.
side of depression. And I get a lot of this too, but I get mostly anxiety. That's really, they're a bit different. But depression, so for me, it's like, well, are they clinically depressed? Like we want to define like where they are in the spectrum of depression. But what I've seen with the patients coming in, what I'm sharing with everyone is clinical. It's not really anecdotal. Some people argue that with me, but it's clinically. What have I seen in the last, 10 years of doing functional medicine clinically in the practice? So that's what I share. This isn't to treat here. I don't treat on podcasts and emails and texts and all that stuff. But one of the main things, of course, depression's coming from the mind and thoughts, right? A lot of it is that, but we want to get down to the root cause, like what could possibly be throwing neurotransmitters off. This one's a big one for me in the sense of the way, and I have seen this through therapists and medical doctors and these patients coming in with all the reports and all the drugs. Why are you laughing?
My dog is snoring so
Cute
loud.
hero.
Sorry.
Um, now I lost my train of thought.
Oh shoot, I'm so sorry.
Oh no, they're on all these drugs and they're heavy drugs. So this is where I get a little bit sad. Heavy, heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And some young kids are on this stuff, like mood disorder, mood medicines, behavior medicines, highs and lows. I mean, they have all these freaking names, and it's just, and they're not on just one, Christine, they're on these cocktails. And it's so sad because what they're doing is they're treating with SSIs, and they're treating the serotonin is usually what they go for, because serotonin is the neurotransmitter where you're happy, right? It's gonna make you happy. And so they just assume it's low, or they test for it, it's low, whatever, it doesn't even matter. And they just give these drugs to try to boost. And I'm not saying it's not warranted in some serious scenarios. It's not what I'm promoting here. I'm not against medication. I do think everything has a time and place. However, when you keep seeing it chronically over and over and over again, when we haven't even tested the neurotransmitters or this is what I want to get. This is what I want to hit home right now. All the cofactors that you need to make the neurotransmitters. I don't have my cheat sheet here. I don't know where my cheat sheet went. Where did it go?
While you look, I just want to mention, I don't want to throw you off. So if I'm gonna, I will wait till the end. Just let me know if you want me to go ahead or
I don't
not.
know where it is, but I have this cheat sheet. I don't know where I put it. I call it my cheat sheet. I don't know where it is. I share it with the patients, but so don't quote me on it because I don't have it memorized. But to make serotonin, you need tryptophan, which is an amino acid. You need 5-HTP. And then you need, this is where I don't have it memorized. You need something like iron and copper and B6. And I don't have it memorized because I look at the pathways. And then serotonin will go down and make melatonin eventually. But my point is, or it'll branch off and make it. But you need all these micronutrients that we talked about in the last, and if you didn't, I'm not going to get it deep into it here. I got more deep into micronutrients for anxiety. Go listen to the podcast before this podcast. You need all the B vitamins, you need vitamin D, you need iron, you need copper, you need zinc, you need selenium, you need all of these micronutrients to make the neurotransmitters. You also need amino acids. So yeah, if you don't have 5-HTP, or if you don't have the cofactors, you need to convert tryptophan to 5-HTP, or the cofactors to convert 5-HTP serotonin. You won't make serotonin. And so that's the first thing that I really get frustrated with all these depression pills, which some of them make people suicidal. So that's another topic.
I'm so glad I never did that with him.
Right. So I look at this stuff like, wow, like what if they're just deficient in 3, like majorly deficient in 3 vitamins that would help boost serotonin? What functional medicine wants to do is find the root cause, fix that, but support the pathways, help the body make it itself. We believe in the innate intelligence. We believe in the body's ability to heal itself. We believe in the body's ability to make serotonin. You weren't born without, unless you were born without an enzyme that you need along these pathways. If there's a genetic problem, that's a different story. Other thing this leads to is the gut, because again, like I talked about anxiety, if the gut isn't absorbing the vitamins in your foods, first of all, you have to eat healthy. That's a whole nother topic. But let's assume that you're eating healthy. Or you're taking vitamins, your gut has to absorb those. So if you have a leaky gut, you have an inflamed gut, the gut's not working properly, you won't get the vitamins you need to make the substances that your body makes. So I think functional and homeopathy go well together because homeopathy, the way I see it, is going to get the body to behave the way it's supposed to, right? It's going to get the innate intelligence to heal itself. It's going to get the pathways to work as it should. You're getting the body to work as God intended it to be. But if you're deficient in something, you might have a hard time. So the other thing that I found with depression, so that's neurotransmitters and pathways, and I do that with you. I will work with you. I never test neurotransmitters without the micronutrients. That's the test I do together because I lay out the whole pathway. So I can't find my cheat sheet. I probably used it with somebody and put it down. It's just, you'll see all the pathways, you'll see all the little players in between, and we just look. We literally go with like, all right, serotonin's low, 5-HTP's high. Why isn't it converting? And we literally look at the middle. What are the 4 things you need? And then I literally see they're deficient in that. And so that's how like specific we can get.
Yeah.
But I also have to work on the gut. That's why I'm a leaky gut expert, because I think everything comes back down to that's not working right. But the other thing that I see that I wanted to share on this was pathogens, toxins. So your toxic overload with depressed people are typically high. Anxiety, yeah, but I see it more with like the where they've got the anxiety, the worry, and the sadness. So
Parasites too.
What?
The parasites too.
That's what I was getting at. What are pathogens? Parasites, bacterias, fungus, like yeast overgrowth, right? You have an overgrowth of yeast going on in the gut. We see depression, we see fatigue, we see people not leaving their home, we see sadness. This yeast can leave the gut and get into the bloodstream. It could be chronic. Parasites too. If the gut's not working well, you know what it does, and this just stinks. I hate to even be the bad messenger. Don't shoot me. It stops absorbing the good things and it lets the bad things out. I'm going to repeat that. It literally will let bad things out. So it'll let bacteria out, parasites out, yeast out, like these nasty toxic things could now get into the bloodstream. And that's like, being on a train. It can go anywhere it wants in the body. So some of this depression is coming from a really sick gut. And like you said, parasites, pathogens, things like that, heavy metals. Again, if they're in the gut, we're exposed to heavy metals all the time. We have parasites in us. We have bacteria in us. We should be able to clear these things and live symbiotically with these things at a very low level. So when I think of depression, I think of mold is another thing that can drive people crazy. Limes, right? These underlying pathogens. And you don't know you have them because when you go to the medical doctor, those tests that they do really just touch the surface. And it's sad that insurance doesn't cover functional. I understand that. And that it's sad that medicine doesn't go as deep, but it is what it is, people. Like I can't, I'm hoping Kennedy can change this, but I don't know what's going to go on. Right.
I don't even know that they believe that mold can affect you like that.
Oh my gosh. I've had it's not a lot of patients, but I've had a few patients that we start off with like parasites. We remove them. And then an underlying yeast pops up. So we work on that. And this patient is like coming to me for like depression and some serious stuff. And we get them to like 80% better. And there's just something else. There's just something else that's not working. And you mold test them and they have black mold. And I'm like, can you check your apartment? And there it is, like in the walls. You know what I mean? So no matter what we did, they were going to constantly be depressed because the mold, they're breathing it in every day. And the problem with those mold spores, like this is what you said about, I wrote it down. One of them was sinuses. I don't know where it is on my notes, but.
Well, the NatMer, was that?
Yeah, but like what happens with mold spores is, I just learned this in a webinar like 6 months ago, was the spores are so small, and if you're breathing them in, they love moist places. So they will actually live in your sinuses. So a lot of chronic sinus things you can never get rid of unless you get rid of the mold that's in you, because it's in your sinuses. So that's when I think you said the NatMer can help with the nasal allergies and the sinuses. Now, maybe you're allergic to pollen and you're breathing it in. Maybe it's the actual antigen that comes into the body. But again, it could be mold if it's like serious things.
I think it's Cali salt too helps with mold.
Yeah.
But I was surprised when I started doing my parasite cleanse is that they could be what's driving your like sugar cravings. Like
Yeah,
it can affect your brain. There was a book, Parasites on your, I forget what it's called, something related to how it affects your mind. So
yeah.
these things are, you know.
So there's a blood-brain barrier, right? There's a gut barrier, which is what I was talking about. When that's not working properly, you won't absorb the good stuff, you can absorb the bad stuff. But then the bad stuff can get, think of little Pac-Man or Taxi, they can get into the bloodstream. And if you have I can never say it, a blood-brain barrier. Now, if that's permeable, the bad stuff can get into the brain. And that's where I think, there's books about like brain on fire. I think that's where you will never win an argument with me about autism isn't caused by this stuff, especially what's in the sticks, because we got heavy metals in there. So you get brain swelling,
Oh, it
right?
says in there on the list,
It's
encephalitis. So what is, I mean, what are we?
yeah, I mean, encephalitis is brain swelling, and so that creates the symptoms of autism. So it's just like, duh, it's in
Yeah,
sorry, it's in every stick.
can't handle the
It's I've even seen
sticky.
autism listed on some of the sticks packages now, and I don't know if they took it off because,
Oh,
but some
I
people
don't
argue
know.
that with me, but I've seen it. I've seen it on there. Um, yeah, so really, your gut microbiome is really important. So the problem with the gut microbiome, think of the soil in the garden, and your soil has to be really, really, the best time I ever had a really good garden was when the soil was really healthy. And my landscaper came in and he did the garden. And unfortunately he passed away. I don't have a landscaper anymore. But those few years that he was working, helping Carl and I out, I had the best garden and I never paid attention to what he was doing. It was Phil. I think you know Phil.
You did soil tests?
Yeah, he's tested the soil, he made it right, he did the nitrogen right, he aerated. I don't even know, right? This isn't my expertise. Whoever's
No, I
listening
know,
might
I
be like, I
know.
know exactly what he did. But that's how I see the gut microbiome,
Yeah.
like the terrain of the soil of your gut. And if it's not healthy, if it's sick, if it has pests, think of pests in the garden, right? If you think of weeds, I think of yeast. If you
Yeah.
have these things and you have a sick gut microbiome, you're not going to have a healthy mind,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the probiotic is really important, and we have a test that actually will find the right probiotic to your gut. Like we look at your gut imbalance and we match them and we get the right probiotic for you. And of course, if you have any parasites or weird pests in there, we detox that for you. Um, but I feel like with depression, it's really that toxic load that's really, really important. And I didn't talk about this anxiety. It does, they kind of go together, but I didn't want, I just thought this was what, like, I just wanted to share what I see clinically more with anxiety people versus depression. But like you said, some of the homeopath, they cross over.
Yeah.
Obviously the gut crosses over for so many things, but
Yeah. Oh God. Well, they
that's how
say,
I see depression and how they could, start clearing. So what could they do? Obviously come to me and we could work on your gut. We could work on your toxic load. I could help you with all that stuff. But what could you do like today, right now? Um, Look at your toxic load. Think of yourself in a fish bowl and how toxic is your bowl? Because a fish will die if the water's toxic. You will die if the water's toxic. So think of your fish bowl and start with your skin and what do you put on it? And what do you lather every day all over it? And how many toxins are in that? Then think of your makeup, think of your skincare, think of your face washes, your body washes, think of your perfumes. These things cause depression because these things will create a high toxic load
and anxiety. I was so
and
sick with all
anxiety.
those
Yeah.
things in my house. Oh my God. Just
And then
taking
think about what you
one.
eat. All the, start turning over the boxes and look at the ingredients. Google all the ingredients in your skincare and hygiene. Google all the ingredients in your food and start decreasing your toxic load.
Yeah.
That's my advice from this podcast today.
I couldn't tolerate a lot of supplements or certain things when I was my sickest. And what I was able to do was bone broth as far as like healing my gut and stuff. And so I try to do that every week. And it's so easy in the Instant Pot. Like I literally
Yeah.
like cook the whole chicken for a half an hour. So you have a dinner. And
Yeah.
then you throw that back in for 2 hours on high, high pressure. You don't have to cook it for 24 hours, but it comes out so like rich and dense. And I just, and that's a good
Yeah.
way to heal your gut if, you're not tolerating certain things, I think.
That's one of my steps. Once we remove the inflammatory triggers to the gut problem, so like what's causing the leaky gut, I look at food sensitivities, I look at gut pathogens, and then we clear all that out. And then the next phase is to fix the gut. And we do that with collagen. That's one of the best things to do to fix it and heal it. And collagen is really, you're pulling out all those amino acids. So it's really good for the brain, but it's
Yeah.
also good to repair the tissue. The gut wall is damaged. You got to repair that. So yeah, collagen. And the best collagen to do is bone broth. It's in its natural form. You're going to absorb it. Your body knows what it is. And
Crave it.
the second,
Well,
I
so-
do, you do crave it once you start. You feel so good after you drink bone broth that you're like, then you want it.
Well, Jack doesn't drink. He doesn't drink it. He doesn't like soup.
Does he do the powder then?
No, he doesn't do anything. Maybe 2 nights ago, he's very picky eater, and 2 nights ago, he's like, I was like, you want me to make you like a burrito with like chicken or whatever? And he was like, nah. And then he was going to work, and I think he rethought like it's better than Taco Bell. So he was like, okay. I think he just didn't want to spend the money. So anyway, I made
At that age, it isn't
we're
about
often
health.
thrifty when it's, their money. So anyway, I made him, it was like on a naan, and I did like the chicken from the whole chicken that I pulled. And I had the broth left over, and I did some rice, but I reheated like the rice with the bone broth, and I
Yeah.
put some peppers and onions and things, and I wrapped it up and I left it for him. He comes home at like midnight, and he texted me at like 12:30. That was the best thing you've ever made. And I said, you want to know what? You want to know why? It's the freaking bone broth that you won't drink.
Yeah. Yeah. Got him.
One of these days you're gonna learn, because there's a lot of things that I make that he won't eat, and he doesn't even realize what he's missing, and here he finally didn't know, and he had it. He was like, that was the best.
Yeah. They're like, bone broth, baby.
Yeah, I put it in everything. So I'm obsessed.
Okay, we want to thank everyone for joining us today.
Yes.
And we hope that this information was great for you guys. Remember, we're not trying to treat or cure anything here. We're just trying to help you.
We're just trying to share information. I do want to mention, because you brought up something that made me remember, is like the behaviors when you were talking about, some things you can't help with just this, but whatever. But as far as like ADHD and autism and different things like that, there are remedies for that. There for violence, for like hitting, for like eating things that are not like real, like there's, that pica, I guess it's called.
Okay, yeah.
All those little behaviors are also able to be treated by homeopathy. And it didn't really fall under autism and depression. It's more under, like behaviors and things like that. But you can adjust those with homeopathy also, before you go putting them on, Ritalin or all that stuff. And there's even an ADHD protocol. For
So I
like,
think we're gonna have a podcast on that one.
yes, yeah, definitely.
That's what
But I think next we're going to touch on allergies, just because we're getting into that season.
yes.
And maybe we'll figure out when we're going to do the ADHD one.
Okay.
Okay.
I love it. All right. So excited. I hope you guys are enjoying this, and we'll see you soon.
Yes. Have a good day. Bye, guys.
Bye.